I actually probably should have put that on tape. I didn't even think about it. Tape, that's how old I am. So what I did here was I have this, this is a 5/16 roundover bit, or 1/4 inch. It might be a 1/4 inch roundover. It might even be less than that. It might be 3/16 roundover. I'd have to take it apart to see what it is. And I'm not going to do that. On my router, and I just took it and ran it around the outside of the tube and the inside of the tube, and it made a beautiful, shockingly beautiful lip on the inside and outside here. It's nice and soft. PVC plastic, any plastic, can be as sharp as a razor blade. As a matter of fact, some of the worst cuts I've ever gotten in my life I got with PVC, or actually with plastic. So this edge here is literally razor sharp. It slit you right open. So that router bit put this really nice, shockingly nice edge on there. So when we go to put this together, we're not going to tear, we're not going to damage anything, hopefully. And like I said, I wanted this tight. If I have to, I'll get the heat gun out for the final fit. And this Cordura, when it gets hot, it's got plastic or like rubber or something. It's not, I don't know what it is. The material is like kind of plasticky. Oh yeah. Oh, that's doing exactly what I wanted to do. All right, so this is the way I'm going to do this. All right, I am not going to this is the way this is going to go. Let's see if I can get it to slide. I'm a little worried about that part. That's a little problematic. The strapping doesn't want to stretch as much as the plastic or the Cordura did. If I had some silicone spray, I would do it with that. I think this is going to work. I'm 80% sure it's going to work. Alright, so I'm going to fight with this thing like trying to get a condom on an elephant dick. But I'm pretty sure I can get it. Alright, I know I can get it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this. So we're going to, the trick might be getting it on. Oh, there we go. Alright. Nice little thump there. We'll have to vacuum out that in a minute. Now, we're going to flip it inside out again. And then we're going to trim the seam. We're going to trim the seam. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run another, because it's so tight, and it is tight, to ensure that I get a nice, that this doesn't rip when I go to put it together. So the one thing I'm going to do right now is I'm definitely going to cut this off of here. All right, so these are getting cut off because that's part of why it's not wanting to go in. So these are getting cut off right now. Okay, so I'm going to pull the basting tape out of here. And then I'm going to put another stitch. I'm going to put another stitch here, real close to the first one. Actually, what I should have probably done is used a stretchy stitch, but I didn't do that. Okay, so somewhat ironically, I went back and sewed, I put another stitch on here to double this up to make sure it was nice and strong. The side effect of that was, but I didn't cut these. Now the problem is that my 89-cent Harbor Freight shears won't cut it, or scissors. My good shears won't cut it. These things are, granted, these are kind of dull, but they won't cut it either. So I'm going to try my rotary cutter, and if that doesn't work, I'll use a razor knife. There we go, cut right through it. This isn't my long thing, so I'm just going to use a rotary cutter here, which almost. Yeah, I like the scissors a little bit better for projects like this when I don't have a straight edge to cut against. This rotary cutter also has a nick in the blade. There we go. Now these, I'm too cheap to buy good scissors. These actually could be sharpened, and I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. Never been able to sharpen scissors, which is stupid because I can sharpen everything else to the point of dangerous, but for whatever reason I can't seem to get scissors sharp enough to do anything with. That's why I buy those 89-cent Harbor Freight ones. As soon as they get dull, I throw them away. I do have a somewhat nice pair of Fiskars around here somewhere. I don't know where they're at. Okay, that's that. Now that gives us a nice, makes this seam is really nice. I know for a fact when I go to put this thing back together, I'm gonna have to heat this. I'm gonna have to heat this with a heat gun to get it to go over the tube. Now, next step, an end cap. So I'm going to fold this in half here. So I'm going to fold my end cap in half. I'm just going to put a little nick in it. Because that's where I want this to be. I want this end cap to have at least some point of reference. Now I could do basting tape here, or I can use magic clips. I'm gonna try magic clips first, and then we'll see how that works, if I can get it to work. I may actually have to pin this, which means I gotta go in the house and get my pins. Okay, so I'm gonna put that there. I'm going to put a magic clip here. Okay. And trim my boogers off. And I'm just going to put magic clips relatively tightly all the way around this thing. The cap allows me a ½ inch of, I may have to pin this, it will allow me ½ an inch of seam allowance. Which should be more than enough. So I want to sew it at ½ an inch. I may pull this off. Actually, I haven't figured out how I'm going to do this yet. That's no lie. I have not yet quite figured out how I'm going to sew this. But we're learning at the same time, right? This is all going to be done at the same time. I may have a problem that I see already. Yep. All right. So I have all this extra in here, which is slightly problematic. Now, how do I fix that? Could do a massive slitting of the difference here. I think what I got going on, well, I don't think, I know what I got going on here, is this really wants to go in a lot deeper. There we go. So that, to account for the seam allowance, this wants to go in further. Dealing with circles is never fun. So what I'm doing is pushing it down. So that'll take up the extra material, and it is actually taking up the extra material. It's kind of like making a hat. So what I should have probably done. Sometimes work smarter, not harder. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to make this. Actually, I'll do it right now. Just going to make a mess, but that's okay. And you might get to see me hit myself with a router. Now, if this isn't sewing for men, I don't know what is. What a tremendous mess we've made. Should have probably rounded off both ends. You know what? Discretion's the better part about it. This piece is so small, I'm actually really worried about catching my hand with the router. I futz around with dangerous shit all the time, but router is probably on the very short list of ones that kind of worry me. Ugh. Everybody I know that hasn't actually taken a whole finger off usually gets caught by a router. Router wounds are hard to heal. Because they usually take out big chunks of flesh. Okay, now. Okay, so now we have that, like that. Now I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with this piece of material after I'm done with it, but make sure that's going in. My nick. I made the chunk, I cut the nick really small. I should have cut a V. Oh, there it is. You know what? So that's going to go there. if I have to, which I actually am gonna have to, this is only supposed to be 1/2 inch, so we're gonna do it like that. What I'm gonna end up doing here is pushing the form, which I'm using, probably out the other end, hopefully. Hopefully it'll come through with the least amount of fight. Otherwise this whole project is going to go to shit. Actually, what I'll do is I'll smash it with a hammer. PVC is not nearly as strong as people think it is. It's actually a really piss poor building material if you're building stuff. You see guys, oh, I built this out of PVC. I built a cart out of PVC, and it's like, yeah, you use Schedule 40, and quite frankly, it just doesn't hold up. I think if I was to do this again, I'd probably use electrical conduit. Or drain pipe. The Schedule 40 is just too heavy. Okay, so now we're back to where we were. Well, that didn't work. Oh well. All is not lost just yet. Option 2 is to make the circle a little smaller. I made the circle 5.5 inches, so I actually think I need to make it 4 inches. Okay, we can do that. That's the answer. So I made the circle too big. Knowingly, I made the circle too big. So we can pull this thing out of here. We don't need that. So what I did was I made it 4.5 inches, and I think I should have just made it 4 inches because the seam allowance, I made it bigger for seam allowance, and for some reason it's not. Let's see what the diameter, yeah, so let's measure this to make sure that we're all on the same page here. And that's actually 7. Oh, I gotta do math. So that's 14. Math. So, because I can't do math in my head, clear. So 5.5 times, oops, I'm going to flip the thing over, times pi equals 17.278. Okay, so 17.25. Now this is 14. So 14 divided by pi equals 4.45. So it should be 4.5 inches, not 5.5 inches. So there's that. Because the OD on this is 4.5 inches. Yeah, the OD on this is 4.5 inches. I'm not gonna cut this one. I want to cut a new one. Damn it. One thing about these is they do not like to get dropped because they immediately shatter on the inside. Oh well. Okay, so let's try 4.5 inches. I have plenty of material. Even no matter what, I've got plenty of material. So we're going to do 4.5 inches. which is the actual outside diameter of this. Not take into account a seam allowance, because the seam allowance is actually at this end. Should probably do an episode on sharpening a pair of scissors. There you go, this old Tony. Teach me how to sharpen scissors. I'm going to cut on the outside of this, because that'll give me a little extra. The Sharpie is about 1/8 of an inch wide, so that'll give me 4 3/4. We're gonna put a reference mark. Make sure you have the inside on the inside. You don't want to do the same stupid shit twice. Okay, so that's there. I'm still going to use a 1/2 inch I still want to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now it's too big. Now the outside's too big, but a lot less too big. Now, still have some similar issue here, but I think that that'll work. There'll be a little pucker in there, that's all. There'll be a pucker somewhere, guaranteed. Okay, now let's see if I can sew this. I'm wondering if maybe I should have put basting tape on the inside instead of the magic clips, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get the sew. I don't think I'm going to be able to get the foot in there. So herein lies my quandary. I can't get the foot in there. Oh, wait a minute. I might be able to do this. I'm going to take that clip out and that clip out. I'm going to very carefully hold that together. Actually, that may have been the way to do this. I still may end up having to put basting tape in there. Let's put these back in temporarily here. Yes, and I could have actually bought one of these. Before anybody says anything asinine, yes, don't build what you can buy. I'm well aware of that. But quite frankly, sometimes you just can't buy what you want to build. You can't just buy some things. At least not to the specifications that I want. We're gonna try it. I actually had shut this machine. This machine actually had shut off. I accidentally unplugged it, so I have to redo all my settings. I should have probably
done a test piece because I cut it off. Get rid of those. Again, super slow. Doorbell rang. Be calling upon us. Trying to keep my mitts out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. I'm pulling these off as we go. I'm gonna end up with a pucker in it, and hopefully the pucker manifests itself at the seam. Which I can, you rat some bitch. Not my greatest work here, ladies and gentlemen. May have been easier to do it the other way to keep this aligned. So what happened is this, and it's kind of important that these stay kind of the same. Alright, well, we're just going to keep rolling here, and if I have to go back and adjust it later, we could do that. Here's where I can get my finger caught. You can kind of see how I'm trying to keep these joints together here. Yeah, that all went to hell real quick. I'm kind of pulling on this a little bit to try to get it to go where I want it to go. You know, sometimes that's just part of it. You have to, it's just like doing anything else. You kind of need to force it to do what you want it to do. Yeah, we're gonna have a pretty decent sized pucker in this. I may have to rip this whole seam. That's all right. That's all part of learning how to do this, right? I've never done this before. Not this size, or not this small. I've made round things before. It's just never made them this small. I make a lot of small things. If I can get this pucker, which is gonna happen, to be puckered right by the seam here, I'll be happy. I think that's just the way I'm gonna do it. Sometimes you just have puckers. You know, there's a way to get rid of them. Cut that, and then we're gonna take a look at it. So actually, it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't really look too bad. I'm going to flip it inside out and see how it looks. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it inside out, see how it looks, make sure it fits. If it does, then we're done, kind of. If it doesn't, then I have to rip it back apart. So And it looks like I've lucked out that way too. All right, so we're kind of back, hopefully in frame. I switched tripods, so now everything's a little closer. I hate that GoPro. Okay, so now what I ought to do is just take this piece here and see if I can get it to fit. I'm kind of curious to see what this end looks like. Actually, honestly, it doesn't look too awful. Other than, you know what, that might actually work. We have plenty of room at this end. So what's going to end up happening is this is going to be inside of this, like that. So instead of being on the outside edge, which is my original intention, it's going to be on the inside. So I hope it should work that way. All right, now, because I have very little faith in my sewing ability here, I'm gonna put another row of stitches in this. Now this time I'm gonna do it this way. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put another row of stitching on this outside here. I gotta clean this stuff off. This type of stuff when you're sewing can cause real problems. Trust me, I've done it 1,000 times. Curious as to why Ralph was out there barking like a nitwit. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna put another row of stitches in this thing just because. We're gonna take our good old time. Then we're gonna make the lid. The lid ought to be fun. Trying to do a 3-tips angle here. It's a little bit harder when you're sewing as opposed to just dumping chemicals into a vat. So you can see how slow I'm going and how careful I'm trying to be here. And I'm trying not to bump the camera. It's kind of cool, you can watch the bobbin thread, which is getting very low. Oh. While I'm doing this, I'm also flipping and fiddling with the other end of this. And I'm trying not to get this pucker in here. Okay. Hey, look at that, it worked. Hey, it's not pretty. That's not really great. But, and my knots are a little, it's the stitch is a little loose, but that's as tight as I can get it. Now, the next step. I'm not going to shove this thing together just yet, but I am going to flip it inside out. Uncle Fezzy, why does all my stuff smell like cigarettes? Well, it's because I'm a chain smoker. Alright, get rid of the rest of this. That looks pretty cleaned up. All my little boogers. We're going to flip this inside out, hopefully for the last time. Alright, so now we have a fishing rod bag. One that I like a hell of a lot better than the old one. Okay, I'm going to show the old one at some point. So we got this, turned out pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to leave that in there like that, leave that in there like that. Now, for the tricky part. That one is crooked. That bums me out a little. But I made it. Okay, now to the next part.